Okay, so I've made my three methods, my main, my add elements, and my remove elements. I haven't written anything in these two methods yet. I have declared my array called DArray, and it's 100 large, and I've populated it with random values. So now what I'm going to do is, let's draw a picture to make sure we understand what's happened here. This program has this variable called DArray, and remember, this is what's called a reference variable. So what happens is somewhere in memory the computer's gone and saved 100 spaces. These are 100 spaces, so the indexes go from 0, 1 up to 99. And that's really important to remember. Indexes go from 0 to 1 minus the length. So what happens is it's not that the data is stored inside the memory block for the main, it points to where the memory is here. So let's start with add elements. So if I'm going to add the elements, I'm going to need some sort of variable in here called total, because the total is going to keep track of how many we have, and total is initialized to 0. So once it sees that line in add elements, we're going to get this variable called total, and it's initialized to 0. So now what we do is we have to cycle through every element in the array, and the array, when it's passed, what happens is when this is invoked, it makes this array value called D, and what it sends to it, it doesn't send all the data to it, it sends the memory reference which is stored in DArray, so D now points to the same location. And this is the important point. We don't pass the data into the method, we pass the memory reference of where the data lives. So again, I want to go through each element in this array, so the best thing to do is to use a for loop. So for int I equals 0, because it's the first index, I is less than d dot length, I is equal to I plus 1, and what I'm going to say is total is equal to total plus d at element I, and then I'm going to return total. So let's build this, make sure it builds. Perfect. And now let's do this. Let's go system dot. Let's make another variable. So what we've done is we've made a variable called total in our main. This is total, and total is going to start with the value 0. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say total is equal to add elements, and I'm going to pass it the array DArray. And notice, here I don't have any actual specific index reference because I'm passing the memory reference, which is the actual variable in the location. So now what we can do is system.out.println, the total is total. If we run this, there's the total. So a couple things to be aware of. I've really stressed this idea of not writing the size of the array in here, but using the d.length or the .length notation so the computer tells us how big the array is. The reason for that is when we write this method, all I'm passing is the reference to the array. So the array that's being passed into this method could be as big or as small as I wanted it to be. So I could make this array, for example, 10 elements. And then if I run this, it doesn't make a difference, because what happens is this array is passed into this method, and all that's passed in this method is the memory reference. So instead of pointing to 100 things like it initially did, it would then point to 10 things. Okay, in the next video we'll work on our next method. Good luck.